Here's a showdown that's about to get messy. 20 Democratic-led states just declared war on the Trump administration over what they're calling a financial hostage situation that puts crime victims directly in the crossfire. On Monday, 20 states plus Washington, D.C. filed an explosive federal lawsuit claiming the Trump administration is deliberately holding back hundreds of millions of dollars in critical crime victim funding. But here's where it gets controversial. They're allegedly doing this as leverage to force states into becoming unpaid immigration enforcement agents for the federal government. Think about this for a moment. We're talking about money specifically earmarked to help the most vulnerable people in our communities. Crime victims who desperately need assistance with medical bills, funeral expenses, crisis counseling, emergency housing, hotline services, and legal representation. These aren't abstract policy debates. These are real people facing genuine emergencies. The Democratic attorneys general are demanding that a federal judge immediately strike down the conditions that the Justice Department has attached to receiving these grants. Here's what makes this situation particularly explosive. If the Trump administration's threats actually materialize, states would face an impossible choice. They'd have to either fully collaborate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, in ways they fundamentally oppose, or they'd be forced to drastically reduce or completely eliminate programs that help crime victims rebuild their lives. This brazen attempt to use funding that supports our most vulnerable residents to strong-arm California and states nationwide into doing the federal government's job for it is blatantly beyond the power of the president, declared California Attorney General Rob Bonda in a fiery statement that captures the raw emotion behind this legal battle. But here's the part most people miss. This lawsuit represents just the latest explosive chapter in an escalating war between the Trump administration and individual states over immigration policy. It's a conflict that's reshaping the very foundation of how federal and state governments interact. President Trump and his Justice Department have made it crystal clear that their top priority is aggressively expelling migrants who lack legal status, while systematically dismantling what are commonly known as sanctuary policies, local and state-level protections that limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. Attorney General Pam Bondi has taken this campaign to a whole new level by publishing what amounts to a public enemies list of jurisdictions with sanctuary policies. This comprehensive roster includes 12 entire states, Washington, D.C., 4 counties, and 18 cities, essentially creating a roadmap for federal pressure campaigns. And this is where the controversy really explodes. The Justice Department isn't just making lists, they're filing aggressive lawsuits against sanctuary jurisdictions in a coordinated effort to force compliance with immigration enforcement. Their legal targets include major players like Illinois, New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, essentially declaring legal war on some of America's largest and most influential jurisdictions. What makes this situation particularly fascinating and deeply controversial is the fundamental question it raises about federal versus state power. Should the federal government be able to withhold funding for crime victims to achieve immigration policy goals? Or does this represent a dangerous overreach that weaponizes human suffering for political purposes? Here's where you come in. Do you believe states should be forced to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement, even if it means potentially losing funding for crime victim services? Or do you think this represents exactly the kind of federal overreach that our system of government was designed to prevent? The implications of this legal battle will extend far beyond immigration policy. They'll help define the balance of power between federal and state governments for years to come. What's your take on this collision between immigration and... Share your thoughts. This is exactly the kind of issue where reasonable people can strongly disagree.